All right, thank you, everybody. This is the last session for Phase 1 of our first ever HandyCon Handshake Conference. I don't know about you, but it's been amazing already. So there's a lot more to go for today and the next day. So we got Handshake Showcase time. It's going to be moderated by Ramirez. You may have known him in the community. I'll let him introduce himself a bit. And there's Neil and some. So we really wanted, this is what it's really all about. Of course, we had some really good name people sharing their knowledge and their experience, but this is really what I believe is the future of Handshake, to really showcase developers and the community of what they're building and what they're making, and maybe also can make some new business partners and new customers, support these people, sign up for their services, share on your blogs, on your social media. So this will be the last session for today, and then we're going to go into networking mode with roundtables and air meet, so you're welcome to stay for that. And again, the auctions will be tomorrow, end of day. Okay, without further ado, Brian, take it away for the Handshake Showcase.
Awesome. So welcome everybody. The purpose of this segment is to showcase some brilliant minds that have built something on top of Handshake. So we have Neil here with Flip Flops and Johnny. A little bit about me. I'm just a regular guy. I actually sold NFT to Jehan, but I stayed with the community because I realized how passionate they were about decentralization, and in my opinion, Handshake is one of the most consequential projects out there. So the first question I'd like to bring up to the guests is give a little bit of background about you and what were you doing before you discovered Handshake. Neil, you can go first.
Yeah, sure. So prior to discovering Handshake, obviously I had some experience with blockchain and crypto in general, some exposure there. I think I really got into that kind of stuff around 2017-ish. I got into the developing NFT space and stuff before it was really NFTs. Right? That's really when I got really involved in this kind of blockchain and decentralization kind of stuff. And I'm a student. I'm a college student. I'm undergrad. And I was just around the time when I first started college. So I really didn't have a whole lot of understanding, but after a while I started clicking blockchain in general. And I got into NFTs, and I've always been kind of like a design-oriented, artistic kind of mindset, as well as technical. So I really got into crypto art before I really knew what it was, and I thought it was just kind of cool. And I didn't think it was as big as it became today. But I became an artist and started selling some artwork on Super Rare and stuff. So, and ever since then, I've been kind of just like looking at new stuff around crypto and blockchain. And it wasn't until I believe I just saw something about Handshake on my Twitter feed or something in passing. I was kind of curious. I didn't have any really basic knowledge of like USI DNS or the domain name system or anything related to that worked. Forgetting about Handshake just normally. So it was kind of interesting just to learn about like what the differences are and how those things work behind the scenes. And it was I actually bought my.
Hey Neil, I'm seeing a lot from the chat. Do you think you can either move closer to the mic or just enunciate, speak louder a little bit?
Yeah, sorry. Is this better?
That's so much better, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like I was saying, I kind of just discovered Handshake through social media. I've just seen some posts here and there. Started learning about the domain architecture normally, just on the internet. Because at that time, before this time, I bought like a regular .com domain for myself, just figured I might as well have one. And I saw my full name was available.com, so I thought I'd grab it. And I don't really have huge interest in doing anything with it other than just put another basic website. But then I started seeing about the DNS stuff, and then started getting a kind of fundamental understanding of how that worked. And then it was only after that that I discovered Handshake. And so at the time I was thinking, well, I have a domain now, so why don't can I get like a professional email address, like just at my domain. You know, I try to do everything like on a shoestring, just do it myself. But I'm like, oh, I gotta pay $5 a month. That's kind of I figured I can't be that hard to figure out how to do that myself. It was pretty hard. So I kind of struggled with that for a while. I was wanting to get that down. And then I discovered Handshake, and I had gone in. I was just like, okay, I'm just going to try to set up an email server on my own for my domain. And it was during that process that I first got into Handshake. And I figured, well, I could, if I'm doing this right now, what if I just add the Handshake node onto the server that just allow me to make emails to a Handshake domain too? And I tried that, and it didn't work. And I tried a lot of other things, and it didn't work. And I could on and off kind of figure it out. Eventually, it started working. And yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar journey. I wanted to test it out, so I bought my first name, and then the rest is history. What about you, Johnny? What were you doing before you discovered Handshake?
Yeah, so I just want to share that I'm actually just stepping in for another community member who couldn't make it. So I'm not showcasing anything I built. I'm not a developer by any means, so I'm total no-code guy. But just showcasing what he built. But for myself, actually, prior to discovering Handshake, I really didn't care about blockchain at all. I remember when Bitcoin hit 10K, and my reaction was like, oh, I remember Bitcoin. And that was like it. I didn't really do anything. I think I bought like $15 of Dogecoin then, which is like $400 now. So that was like cool. That was like the extent of my involvement in the blockchain crypto space. And I'm definitely not interested in DNS. But after graduating from uni, I took like a backpacking trip, came back, and I was looking for a role. And man, luckiest thing that ever happened to me. Went to my friend's place, played a board game with like one of his friends, first time I met him ever, offered him a ride back. We were just talking about like what we were up to. I shared that I was looking for a role that involved talking a lot to people. He was like, oh, I know this guy Jehan, he's looking for a community manager right now. And that's kind of how I fell into Handshake. But it took me a while to learn about Handshake at first. The Learning Center didn't exist back then. So it was kind of hard to get started. But when I realized that I can just own .JohnnyWoo, like I never thought about this. It was like, wow, it's like you can't own domains. Like you can only rent them and the subdomain from like some domain extension owner. So when I discovered that I can own like my own name, like .JohnnyWoo is me. And the next level was like dotless domain. So I can have a website on just JohnnyWoo, like no dots. Oh man. So I'm like all in. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of went through the same exact thing. Mm-hmm. So tell us about how you built FlipFlops. Like what was the process of going through that, Neil?
Yeah. Well, so it was. I should preface I'm not really a professional developer of any sort.
And Neil, a little closer.
Yeah. Yeah, I was saying like I'm not really a developer of much of this of anything really. I basically just kind of like a hobbyist, just kind of I get an idea and I say like, well, maybe I could do that. Can I make that happen? Like, you can go through a bunch of frustrating Googling until I figure out what to do. And that's kind of basically how it kind of all went together. I'm honestly kind of surprised that I haven't messed anything up and that I got this far, to be quite honest. Like I said, I was doing that with like my regular .com domain to just to be able to say that I have a self-hosted email server, because I thought like it seemed like a challenge. And I mean, this whole process, I mean, like I said, it's not something I do really. I'm not like even in school. I've never really studied any tech-oriented development, web development, or anything like that, programming. So it's kind of just been like on and off for months. I think I first started the mail server. I think I first got it up and running on my .com domain in like September or October, maybe earlier. And so it's been like kind of like an on and off thing for weeks, months, that I've just kind of fiddled with until I can get something to work. And so I tried to do that for my Handshake domain. And it obviously a lot of trial and error, but it was hard to, I mean, because there was really, at the time, because I figured somebody would have already done this. I thought somebody would have thought of this already, because I figured that would be something common that people would try to think of a use case, or like just kind of migrate an existing protocol like email over to this domain system. So I figured that other people would be out there, and I could test my email server through my Handshake domain by sending somebody else with their own setup. I wasn't able to find anybody that I was aware of for like months. Like I'm pretty sure I had it working in like November or end of October, but I just had no way to verify that, because there's nobody else to send emails to. So it kind of just sat there. It's the same. Technically, it's the same server as that I use, the mail server that I use for my .com domain.
Are you able to show like flip-flops? Are you able to show Are you able to show it off?
Sure. Yeah, I can. Is there a screen share?
Yeah. It's right next to the microphone button.
On the bottom of the screen.
Okay. It's asking me for permissions.
Also, I'm totally registered on FlipFlops. If anyone wants to shoot me an email, I'm johnnywu@flip.flops.
That's really interesting that you don't have a developer background. I think it would be really beneficial if you provide documentation on how you did it. I think it would help the community.
I tried to do a screen share, but I would have to restart my browser to allow it permissions. So,
can you share with us any stats on how many registrations?
I don't have any like analytics. I can just go to the admin dashboard and see how long the list is. Let's see. Last time I checked, it was too long for me to justify.
Wow.
Let's see. Oh, it's several pages long.
All right. In the audience, can anyone confirm if you guys can see the screen share?
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay. Yeah, Neil. So like, you can just tell me. I can just be your mouse for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is just like HTML. I kept it that way for a while until I shared the link out with everybody. Decided I should give it a face. And since I'm more into design and stuff, I figured this is something I can do with confidence. Yeah, so there's literally only 2 other pages to this. Yeah,
I guess we could just go through this, huh?
The sign up, obviously the first page, enter, the username, password. I have to capture, don't forget your password. I can't read your password, so you should remember that. Once you fill out the CAPTCHA, it'll give you, down there, if you scroll down to that table, it has the information if you wanted to hook it up to your, like, for example, on a Mac, mail app, you're going to add an account. You just copy those settings in and authenticate with your password. You'll be good to go. I have my Handshake emails set up that way on my phone as well. If you don't want to go that route, you can just go to flipflops/mail, which is, if you go back, there's a link, the login link.
I love that you don't ask for an email to sign up for it.
I know, I need to go, because I've had some people forget their passwords, and I can't do that manually. I have to fix that.
So I'm guessing login?
Yeah, that just takes you to flipflops/mail. You can log in with the
HandyCon. Do I need to do @flipflops?
Yeah, @flipflops. Yeah.
Flip.flops. The URL is flip.flops. Password. And this is all on Handshake, right? Like .flops is not an ICANN domain. It's
no, flops is not. I got flops kind of like a fluke almost. I was not expecting to win the auction for that one. I thought that'd be a good one. It's short. It has 2 meanings, like flops as in flip flops, or like floating point operations per second.
I must have forgot the password I just set up.
Oh.
I'm signed into my Johnny Woo @flipflops now.
Okay, I can change it right now, actually. What was it? HandyCon?
yeah, it was HandyCon @flip.flops.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, this looks sick. It's like the UI is super clean. Send some text. Oh, nice. I didn't realize I had some emails waiting for me too.
Okay, I set it up. I guess since everybody's listening, this might as well be like a temporary public for HandyCon. All right, are you ready?
Sorry, what's going on? I got distracted. I had to respond to someone on Flipflops.
I was saying I changed the password for that account that you just set up.
Okay.
And I guess if people want to try it out, I guess they can use it as like a public demo page. And I can just close the account after the conference. So the password is all lowercase, all one word. Public pass.
Yeah, this is really great.
Yeah, we're in. And this is totally community driven. Oh, wow, I already got one waiting.
Oh, somebody already sent one. Nice.
Cool. Yeah, anybody is welcome to also pop into this. HandyCon @flip.flops. Password is public password, you said?
A public pass, yeah.
Public pass.
All one word, all lowercase.
Cool.
And just as a demo, I can pull up. You can't see my screen, but I'm using the Mac native mail app. I can send one from my domain, Neil.
So, Neil, do you plan on continuing to build on this, or do you want to build something else? What are your plans going forward?
Jehan.
I never really had a plan for this, but I can, after getting this far, I can definitely feel like there's merit in continuing building something like this out.
Very good.
Can you guys still see me?
Yeah.
Okay. My app opened over top my thing, and I can. Sorry.
Yeah. One question is this? Are we able to send this only to other like flip-flop emails, or can you send this to like a Gmail?
No, yeah, you can send it to anybody else who has a server that is able to correctly identify handshake domains. Not just, I mean, obviously your server would have to have a resolver that can resolve handshake domains. But not only that, but there's also some like the built-in functions, like the entire code of most email servers and just the protocols themselves. They're just not designed to expect, especially like bare TLDs, email addresses of that and alternative group domains usually. So like especially with spam filters, even if, for example, somebody set up like a handshake or an email server, just like a regular email server, and just plot the handshake resolver on it, there'll be a lot of problems still with trying to receive an email from me, because it'll probably get bounced, or it'll probably think it's like the most, it'll be like, it'll think that it's the most confident spam it's ever seen. You know? So, yeah. And the other thing is because, so yeah, you can't send it. Like, for example, Sebastian was planning to be here earlier, but wasn't able to make it, it looks like.
Oh, nice.
He was the first one I found that had set up a mail server with the same handshake capability that I had, which was last month, a month or so ago. And I saw something in your Discord that he said something like, I have an email out of my handshake domain. I was like, what? Okay. Since what? Like, this guy just came out of nowhere. I was pumped because like that was the first time I got the chance to actually verify it after like months of just letting it sit idle. And so we sent the first email to each other. Surprisingly, it worked perfectly okay the first go. And so yeah, he has an independently set up email server, and it's not like it's like on, like, for example, if you send an email from flip-flops to another email at flip-flops, it's not really that hard of a thing to accomplish, you know, because it's all on the same computer, same server. It's basically just like leaving a note for somebody else on the computer.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then we were able to do it with independent servers through the original SMTP protocol. That was verification that it's possible. So that was exciting. And,
yeah, that was awesome to observe too. And to end this flip flops on an interesting note, like, this is funny that somebody else from the audience signed in to HandyCon at Flip Flop and emailed HandyCon at Flip Flops from HandyCon at Flip Flops.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do a quick demo for someone who couldn't make it today, Sivaram. He created this simple web page that's built from straw.page. And so basically straw.page, it makes it really easy to just create a simple website, static website, that you can download the HTML file for. Right? And so what's interesting is, so he introduced himself in the Namer community. He said, I got this set up. And I noticed that he had this website set up on just a standalone TLD, which is actually a little complicated. Normally you got to like set up your own servers and all this stuff that I totally don't understand how to. But what he ended up doing was, so he created a D-Link. So I'll just go through his process. So I own JWoo. And D-Links on Namebase. So I'll set this up as like HandyCon.jwoo. Next. And so this is all part of Namebase, part of our no-code thing. Nothing new here. And we'll say I really don't know. Twitter? Twitter.com/business. All right. So generate this. And we're good to go. So in my records, I should have HandyCon, right? So what he did was he went to here, content hash.handycon, and so this is just the a skylink. So what you can do is you can just put any HTML file, upload it onto Skynet, and then you'll get a skylink, and you can just replace it here, and you're just kind of hacking D-links, right? So you're just taking advantage of Namebase's gateway, which we're going to open source, but just taking advantage of Namebase's gateway to put any kind of website you want on what would have been your D-link. And so what I've done is I actually have a website template that one of the audience members shared with me a couple weeks back, Ben, or known by Out of the World. But I'm just going to go ahead and copy this right here. Replace it right here. So, and so now if I visit handycon.jwoo, I shouldn't see the D-link anymore. I shouldn't see this anymore. What I should see is, yep, so this like simple website template. So you can do this with like any HTML file. And what we plan to do is open source the D-link generator so anybody can build this themselves. Anybody can set up the gateway themselves as well. And then we can do a D-links, like hack your D-links competition with some free Handshake merch as the winner for like most interesting websites.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. So yeah, that's something I'm pretty excited for. But we'll get back on. Well, and I saw Sebastian.
It's Sebastian, yeah.
Yeah, I see Sebastian has joined. Sebastian, can you say something?
Oh, am I in here?
Perfect. Yeah, you are.
Oh.
So we are kind of wrapping up this session. We are just running out of time. But just for the audience, Sebastian, do you want to introduce yourself and kind of go through what you would have otherwise talked about?
Yeah, so sorry I came in late. I'm actually at my job right now, so I had somebody come in and it ran kind of... I'm like one of the email guys on Handshake, I guess. But yeah, that's really me. I wrote a tutorial on posting a Handshake website on an OpenBSD box, start to finish, from auctioning on your name and setting up your own name server, just all that stuff.
Where can we find that?
Sure, let me just post that in the chat real quick. Oh, I can't even spell my own name.
Yeah, and just to share, like if you guys didn't catch that, so Neil was telling a story about he had created his email. He set up email on Handshake, but there wasn't anybody to send the email to. And then after months, out of nowhere, this like independent guy came out of nowhere. He also set up email, and that's Sebastian. This one.
Yeah. So my kind of getting into email on Handshake for me was eventually. I mean, I got my name on Handshake, Razor, and I decided, well, I'm going to try to get everything I can onto Handshake and see what I can do to kind of push it to its limits. So I self-hosted my website. I self-hosted like a Git server and stuff. And I'm like, well, this is basically just kind of static stuff. So I decided, well, I'm going to try to get an email server running on Handshake. So I decided I'm just going to, through process of like, just try it and see if it works. I found out that it's basically no different to running an email service or an email server on regular DNS. And I actually learned a few different things throughout the process of like how authentication is handled on email, how email senders are actually validated, all that stuff. So what I learned in regards to actually receiving and sending Handshake emails is if you send an email from a Handshake email address to a regular DNS email address, they will receive that email, but they can't actually authenticate any of that data. So, I mean, my service right now that I'm working on, it can actually send emails to Gmail, and it won't be marked as spam. But the issue there is Gmail can't actually authenticate any of the emails coming in. So I'm not sure why they aren't marking it as spam, but they aren't.
Yeah, I was going to mention the same thing that Sebastian just did about interacting with the regular domain systems. In my early tests of the Handshake server I obviously thought that'd be like the ultimate test to see if it can get into Gmail from a Handshake domain, and it surprisingly was not as hard as I thought it was going to be. But the only problem is it's kind of pointless though until Google decides to put a handshake note on their servers.
Right. And I mean, like, that's the thing right now is, I mean, technically, if FlipFlop's emails could, I mean, if they weren't marked as spam by Gmail, I could theoretically just send an email saying that I sent from FlipFlops, and I mean, there's no way for Gmail to authenticate it. So sending and receiving email, well, you can't actually receive emails from standard DNS right now, but sending emails to standard DNS from a Handshake email is as unsecure as it gets right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and because of that, I actually blocked that on FlipFlops. I'm sure people who've tried it have seen that error message that comes up. I had to make a custom SMTP error message for that. I basically downloaded the entire list of ICANN root domains from the root and copy and pasted the same error every time if the recipient address has that TLD. And basically just saying it's not permitted just because, one, technically it's still on my personal .com domain's email server. So any email that goes through my server to Gmail, they'll know they're going to be interacting with my .com domain primarily. And if they see I'm sending a bunch of like non-existent domains, they're going to blacklist the hell out of my email server.
Yeah.
So until I move that over to a dedicated domain, and just my own security, and then after that, then there's really no purpose beyond just for novelty. You can't respond from Gmail.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it's a totally closed system within Handshake until some big names get in.
All right. Well, I think we're over time. I think it's really awesome what you guys are doing. Keep up the great work. Sebastian, good to see you. Yeah.
Well, and then right after the session, we'll just have some final closing remarks from Mike. And then that'll be a wrap for day one of HandyCon, or phase one of HandyCon.